When people find out that I save 70% of my income, they usually picture me living off of ramen in some dark apartment with the lights turned off to save electricity. But honestly, it wasn't like that at all. Over 10 years, I figured out how to save a ridiculous amount of money without feeling like I was constantly broke or missing out. And along the way, I learned quite a few things that completely changed how I think about money. So the other day, I'm sitting at the kitchen table, just thinking back over those 10 years, how I was saving 70% of my income year after year. And sure, on paper, it looked amazing. I was hitting all my FIRE goals, crushing my savings rate. But if I'm being honest, I was stressed. I had this death grip on every dollar. I was tracking every single expense, obsessing over my budget like it was a game I couldn't lose. No lattes, no eating out, no fun basically. See, it started to feel a lot less like being smart with money and more like I was, well, at war with it. That's when I realized something needed to shift. Saving money shouldn't feel like punishment, and it definitely shouldn't burn you out. So I started doing things differently, and that's what I want to share with you in this video. Lessons that help me save big without losing my mind. And you probably heard the line, live like no one else so that you can live like no one else later. That sounds intense, right? And I think that's one of Dave Ramsey's go-to quotes actually. But let's be real, living in constant anxiety over every little expense, that's not life. That's a slow grind to burnout. See, back then I tracked everything, and I mean everything. Breakfast, lunch, some random thing on Amazon that I bought that I didn't even really need anyway. I was glued to my budget like it was a full-time job. And man, it got old quick. I was constantly thinking about money, either stressing out over every little purchase or trying to avoid the anxiety altogether. And both were exhausting in their own way. So here's what finally clicked for me. Constantly pinching pennies is a losing game. It wears you down. You start to feel like you're sacrificing everything now for a future that always seems, well, just out of reach. And what helped me break out of this spiral was realizing that I didn't need to track every coffee or coupon. I just needed to find contentment. Not from giving everything up, but from simplifying. And I don't mean going full minimalist hermit mode. It's not about depriving yourself of anything fun. It's about getting clear on what really matters to you and cutting back on the stuff that doesn't. It's not about pretending that you're broke. It's about being cool with having less and feeling good about it. See, when you're genuinely content, the pressure fades. You stop chasing that next shiny thing. You realize you don't need a new phone every year or some big trip to feel happy. It turns out that the stuff that makes me happiest is actually super simple. A long bike ride in the local park, catching a game with a friend, watching a good YouTube video with my wife. None of that costs much, and none of it feels like sacrifice. So if you're caught up in tracking every dime and feeling stressed, pause. Take a breath and realize that living simply doesn't mean living small. It means letting go of what doesn't matter so you can enjoy what does. You can still save money and actually enjoy your life in the process. Now, speaking of mindset shifts, here's something that took me a while to really get. A lot of people think that saving money means that you have to act broke all the time, like your whole life is on hold until some magical someday shows up. But that's not it. Saving shouldn't come from a place of fear or scarcity. It should come from having a plan. When I first got serious about FIRE, I went all in on the idea that I had to suffer now to enjoy life later. I cut everything, and yeah, it worked for a while. But after a few years, I started to feel like I was just chasing the future, like I was constantly moving the goalpost, I guess. I'll be happy when I hit this number or that number. I'll relax once I'm fully retired, things like that. But what about today? Saving money doesn't mean you have to cut out everything that makes life enjoyable. What worked for me was learning how to make room for both, being smart with money while still living a life that felt good day to day. I realized that you could take a weekend trip and still be on track with your financial goals. You can invest for the future and still enjoy a good meal that isn't instant noodles all the time. When you find that middle ground, saving stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like freedom. If you've been in that headspace before where every dollar feels like a tug of war, maybe it's time to rethink your approach. Stress, it's just not worth it. And once I had a solid system in place, I realized that I could make steady progress without sacrificing the stuff that made my life feel full. And one of my biggest shifts for me was when I stopped managing everything manually and started automating. See, back then I thought that being good with money meant staying super hands-on. I was always logging into all my accounts, moving money around, double checking transfers, juggling due dates. I mean, it never ended. And honestly, it made managing my finances feel like a second job. So I changed things up. I let my 401k contributions come straight out of my paycheck. I set up automatic dividend reinvesting in my retirement accounts. I put all my bills on auto pay. And at first, yeah, it was a little bit weird letting go of some of that control, but pretty soon I noticed something. Everything was still getting done without me having to micromanage it all. And that's when things clicked. I wasn't just saving more, I was finally breathing easier. No more stressing about whether I remembered to transfer money or pay a bill. It all just worked quietly in the background, and I didn't have to do anything. Now, here's something that really shifted the way I thought about saving. At a certain point, earning more does way more for your financial life than just trying to cut back harder. Of course, being mindful with your spending matters, but there's only so much more that you can cut before it starts to feel like you're just grinding your way through life. After a while, I realized that a faster path wasn't trimming more, it was actually earning more. So I started looking for ways to grow my income. Not flashy stuff, just practical moves. I focused on getting promotions, leveling up my skills, and being open to new opportunities. And one of the biggest things that I did was I moved from Wisconsin to Indiana for a job that pushed me out of my comfort zone. And at the time, it wasn't easy, but it ended up being one of the best financial decisions that I ever made. Now, obviously, that kind of change isn't for everyone, and it doesn't have to be that dramatic. Sometimes the move is just asking for a raise, taking more responsibility, or starting something on the side. Key is to earn more and not let lifestyle creep eat it all up. So I'd say if you're stuck in a savings rut, try shifting your focus. Instead of squeezing every last dime, look for ways to bring in more. It can take the pressure off and open a lot more options for you. Now, here's something else that I don't think gets enough attention, especially if you're married or in a relationship. See, money has to be a team thing. You could be killing it with your savings, but if your partner is out there spending like nothing matters, it's gonna feel like a losing battle. Now, I got lucky. My wife and I, we were already aligned when it comes to money. We didn't have to argue about spending or savings. We both just naturally leaned toward being careful and intentional with it. Still, we didn't leave it up to chance. We talked about everything, from paychecks to bills to investments, all of it. We wanted to make sure that we were always on the same page and heading in the same direction. Because here's the truth. If you're building a life together, you've got to build a financial side together too. It can't be yours and mine, it's got to be ours. Same goals, same plan, no hidden stress or resentment simmering in the background. That kind of alignment is so underrated, but it definitely makes all the difference. Trying to reach financial independence is already hard enough. Don't make it hard by trying to do it by yourself when you've got a partner in life. When you're both working towards the same goal, everything just speeds up. The savings grow faster, the stress goes down, and you just feel more in sync. Not just with money, but with life in general. And over time, that adds up in a huge way. Because here's the truth. Money isn't just about hitting a certain number in your investment account. It's about freedom. It's about waking up without the constant pressure on your chest. It's about building a life that actually feels good to live, not just one that you're trying to stay afloat. Once you and your partner are aligned and the money stuff stops being a constant point of stress, things really start to shift. And that's when you're ready for the thing that really makes all this click, the piece that makes the whole journey feel lighter. Now, I'll be honest, in the beginning, it's gonna feel slow, like really painfully slow. You save a couple $100, maybe 1,000, and it's like, that's it? It feels like you're barely moving the needle. But based on my experience, that's normal. See, no one tells you this, but the early days are supposed to feel like that. Yeah, the progress is quite small, the wins are quiet, and it kind of feels like you're doing all this work for nothing. But what actually happens is that momentum starts to build. Little by little, the savings grow, the investments eventually start doing their thing, and the system that you set up to run in the background does its thing. Your habits get stronger without you even noticing. And then one day you wake up, you check your account, and you think, whoa, when did that happen? And again, it's not overnight, and it's definitely not luck. It's the result of doing the right things over and over long enough for the results to show up. And that's exactly how it went for us. We lived below our means, we saved consistently, we looked for ways to earn more, and we stayed locked in on our goals, together. And now, we're living a life that most people don't think is possible. Honestly, I didn't think it was possible either, and you may not think it's possible right now. But trust me, It is. It's just hard to see until suddenly it's not. All right, are you ready to start building your version of financial freedom? If so, we made something for you. It's called the Fire Starter Guide, and it's a free, super simple guide, no fluff, just real talk about how we got started with financial independence. And in it, we cover the basics like saving smarter, investing without the headache, and yeah, even some tips on traveling the world for cheap. If you want it, just give this video a like and comment the word FIRE down below, and we'll send you the link to download it for free. And if you enjoyed this video, check out our video on how Vanguard index funds made us billionaires. We break down the concept of investing in index funds and make it super simple that you'll wonder why nobody explained it to you like this before. I'll see you there.